Hello and welcome to Management 310, Management Theory. This is an introductory lecture in which I will give you a bit of my background so we can better get to know each other. My name's Professor Thomas J. Norman. I graduated from Harvard College in 1992, so I did my undergraduate work from 1988 to 1992. I focused on social studies, which was an honors program which required me to write a 120-page thesis. The topic I chose to look at was the political forces and the economic forces that I felt would push us to ratify and implement the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA. That turned out to be the case a few years later under the Clinton administration, so that may be signaled that I would be returning to academia. However, I wasn't able to go immediately to graduate school as I might have thought back in 1988 when I was a freshman. Instead, the large student loans and debt that I'd acquired made it make much more sense for me to go get a real job. Now, 1992, as you may or may not know, was one of the most difficult recessions up until the current crisis we're in, and there weren't a ton of jobs, but I was very fortunate to be selected by Procter & Gamble to work in their sales and marketing team located back in Minneapolis, which is in my home state of Minnesota, in their management development program. That was a fantastic opportunity, and you'll probably throughout this class hear me talk about some things that I learned in that program that apply to the material that DAFT talks about in our textbook management. So I worked there for a while. Again, remember, the economy was weak. Procter & Gamble engaged in one of the first proactive right-sizings. Lots of lingo to try to make things sound better. Basically, they wanted to reduce the force, not so much of people like me, new folks they've recruited, but especially people a couple levels up. So they flattened the organization, caused the district managers a lot of concern. But to their credit, they offered people like myself a wonderful opportunity. I was scheduled to go do an international assignment after a couple of years of service, but they decided they were going to hire locals to do those jobs. And I now agree a truly global company should hire Chinese people to manage the Chinese market. You should hire Polish people to work on the Polish market. They just had a mistake, one of these famous marketing mistakes where the Wash and Go was the brand name used in Europe for Pert Plus, a shampoo conditioner blend, and Wash and Go seems like a very efficient type name. You wash your hair, you go out, you have fun, it's no big deal. It really appeals to that kind of lazy male consumer that doesn't want to deal with two hair care products. Well, in Poland, which had just recently been liberated from the Soviet control, they weren't used to getting free samples in their mailboxes, and they weren't used to fancy names like that. There basically was shampoo or there wasn't. You'd wait in line to get shampoo when it was available, and it was of pretty poor quality. So when these Polish folks got these free packets of Wash and Go, they thought, oh, anything free must be horrible. And why would I put a product on my hair where I wash it and my hair goes away? So that was one of the things that led to my and everybody in what was called my class not being offered that opportunity to go spread what we had learned overseas. And that was a big disappointment. I had a work history of all of 2 years, and I was offered the opportunity to continue doing my job, seeing I was doing well, for another 2 years, and then hopefully become a people manager of a team of folks like myself. Well, 2 years seemed like an infinity, so seeing they offered me a package of 3 months' salary, $10,000 to spend on any type of training I should want, and secretarial assistance to find my next job, I took advantage of that. And my father thought I was crazy to leave a good company like P&G, but I had this interest in education, so that helped me get started in my master's work. And I enrolled in an MBA program in the Twin Cities. But then I landed a job in my hometown of Duluth, Minnesota, working for U.S. Bancorp as a business banker. Now, in this job, I learned a lot about management and a lot about branding at Procter & Gamble, but I learned a lot about managing smaller businesses and managing a variety of businesses because I had a portfolio which involved lending to people in the hotel industry, one electric utility, manufacturers, people that own gas stations, people who own the local oil company. And that meant that I had to get up to speed and understand their business well enough to be able to predict if they'd be able to pay me back for that $1 million or $5 million loan that they were looking for. So for those of you very that have an aptitude for finance and are interested in a lot of different businesses, I think that's some of the best training you can get to manage and understand how the world of business works. It's right up there with management consulting. The nice thing about banking is you have some skin in the game. Your decisions really matter. Management consulting, you get paid your $1 million fee for the firm for what you do, you go away, and if it doesn't work, you're not really held accountable, and you've collected your money. So that's my thoughts on management consulting, though a very, very good paying job, and a great way to learn an awful lot. Okay, so that's a little bit about my early work history. I then switched, and instead of getting an MBA, I realized what I think the key to successful companies like the Procter & Gamble's, the General Electrics of the world, is how do they manage their people? How do you get the best people and the right people in the jobs? How do you develop them so you continue to be a great company? And there are a couple of top HR programs in the country. The #1 program is Cornell, and having done the Ivy League thing and not wanting to be in a small town known more for its cow pastures, I chose the #2 program in Minneapolis at the University of Minnesota because I wanted to work while I was getting my master's, and there were a number of large companies I was able to interact with there, so that was a much better fit. And in 1997, a couple of exciting things happened. I got married to my wife Sherry, and got my degree, and I was recruited to go to the Silicon Valley to work for a company called Sun Microsystems, which was a fabulous opportunity as well. Had a very lucky early career, and I do think part of success in management and business is luck. I'm not saying I don't work hard and I'm not fairly bright, but if you have all three of those things go, it makes a world of difference. And in any event, my first job was helping them to train all the people they were hiring. The company had less than 30,000 when I started, had 36,000 when I left. So my initial job was in Sun University doing the new hire program, helping to train 2,000-3,000 people a year. And let me tell you, people management's a lot of fun when you're hiring. In 1997 to 2000 was that dot-com bubble, and people were spending money like it was water. My wife worked for more of a startup company, E-Trade, which was going crazy with Super Bowl ads with crazy monkeys and stuff. E-Trade's an online broker, so she had a little different experience, and some of her stories too might find their way into the course because there's some examples of things people are doing right, things people are doing wrong. The main lesson we learned, and we kind of knew going in there, is if something seems too good to be true, it probably is, and what goes up will come down. So we weren't so surprised when the bubble popped. In fact, we made plans to leave and go back. We had done fairly well and wanted to think about starting a family and be closer to what would be our kids' grandparents, my family and her family. So we chose to go back to Minnesota in the beginning of 2001, right before 9/11, when everything really cratered. So our timing was, again, very fortunate there. And that's when I became the vice president of business banking, the business banking manager for all the Wells Fargo branches north of Duluth, Minnesota. And that was an interesting experience too. Very different to actually have to manage a team of bankers, and Wells Fargo, my role was different in that it wasn't just lending relationships. I got to see the deposit side of things. And what was most interesting was going from the Silicon Valley, where there was tons of money, really lots of companies, lots of vibrancy, going to part of the kind of Rust Belt, an area filled with old mining towns that actually one of the mines had just shut down, another one was in danger of going bankrupt and shutting down. So things had been bad pretty much my whole adult lifetime. I'd seen my uncles and folks struggling, losing their jobs, so very challenging environment to lend to. Because of that, that kind of inspired me to run for a state Senate seat. Unsuccessfully, I ran as a centrist third-party candidate. And my backup plan, seeing I chose then to leave my position at Wells Fargo, was to enter a PhD program in human resources, industrial relations at the University of Minnesota. And that's how I ended up finding my way here to Dominguez Hills, where I've been since 2007. So I'm in my second year, this is my fourth semester, and you are my first undergraduate class. So I hope some of that background makes this course a little bit more human, that you can put a face and a voice to the slides and the material we're going to go through. I look forward to hearing from those of you that choose to call, reading what you write on Blackboard and discussion threads, as well as looking at your results on the quizzes and on the cases we'll be writing up. I wish you all the best in this course and all the success in the world in your endeavors. Please don't hesitate to drop me a line if you have some questions. that are related to your career goals, and I'll be of as much help as I'm able. So this ends the first video. The next video lecture will be me reviewing some of the course requirements, and then video 3 for this week, we'll get into the content. Goodbye.